Hello, welcome to the Louisiana Heart Beats show. I'm host Dennis Ward, and today in the studio we have distinguished children's author, illustrator, and college professor of design, Mr. Taylor Overbey. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi, Dennis. Thanks a lot for having me.
Sure. Well, you are relatively new to the Lafayette area. And you and your family came from?
Michigan.
Oh, great.
From western Michigan.
Okay.
So I say we live on the west coast of Michigan.
And you're a graduate of a very famous, prestigious school in Grand Rapids. I grew up there, so I know about this School of Design. Can you tell folks about Kendall?
Yeah, Kendall College of Art and Design. It's part of Ferris State University. And I got my undergraduate degree in digital media, and that's what I teach at South Louisiana Community College is digital media. And I got my master's degree in painting from Kendall as well.
Oh, wow. Well, so do you still paint professionally, or?
I do. As a matter of fact, I had a piece in a show last weekend, and I'm hoping to get some things locally set up here.
Now that's new to me. I didn't know that part. What is your style of painting? I wish we would have included a photo, of a portrait or...
Well, when I went to grad school for my master's in painting, my background was commercial art, which is pretty much storytelling. Like if you'd say, Taylor, illustrate this story for me, and I would illustrate it. Well, with fine art, it was different. They said you have to have a concept. And when I asked my professors, what's a concept, the one professor said to me, well, we can't exactly explain it to you. It's something you'll have to find out for yourself. I said, so you expect me to have a concept, but you can't tell me what it is? He said, yeah, that's right. So I started thinking about it, and I figured that it was the fire in the belly, so something I'm really passionate about. And I thought, well, if I have to have a concept, and I'm paying all this money to get my master's degree, then I sure as heck better get the biggest splash that I can for my money. So I said, I'm going to do religion and politics, the two things your mom told you to never talk about.
But you express yourself on the canvas. And how did that work turn out?
Well, I do what are called assemblages, where they're masonite, oil paint on masonite cutouts. And some of them move, some of them have video that play in the background.
Interesting. Well, I would love to see some of your portrait work, painting work. Well, and so after college, after Kendall, where did that lead you to?
Well, my last year in grad school, I took a class in children's book illustration. And that's where I started working on the I Wants and the Gimmes. And my daughter, Sophia, was the inspiration for that. She was about 2 years old when I started working on it. And I wanted to do a rhyming story for her to teach her about sharing. And I really was fascinated with this whole process of putting together a children's book. And so my professor there helped me get started on it. And then from there, actually, I ran into a young lady who was an assistant of mine in a class I was teaching. And I asked her if she wanted to see this children's book I was working on. She said, sure, let me see it. And so I showed it to her. She said, you know, my mom would love this. She has a publishing company. And I had sent that story out to a number of places and didn't even get rejections from them. I just never heard back. And so when this young lady said, my mom has a publishing company and she'd love this book, I was like, right, of course, yes. But she said, no, go ahead, really.
It's very serendipitous.
Right, exactly. And so she said, she'll get back to you in 3 days. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But I emailed her mom some samples and the script. And sure enough, in 3 days, her mom got back with me. And she said she wanted to publish my book.
That's
so
great.
It was one of those, yeah, definitely serendipitous.
Well, now you're you're the digital media program coordinator at South Louisiana Community College. And you've restarted your life in Lafayette. And you just told me you bought a home here.
We did.
So you're putting down roots. And let's begin with your children's books. We have the snit up? Can you
Yeah.
tell me about the snit?
Well, that was a story I wrote for my son when he was probably 4 or 5, and I wanted to teach him about how he could control his anger, that it was a decision he could make. And so I came up with this story. The snit is something that George Franklin Witt has. Like, he'll get angry, and then this snit starts following him around in the story until he decides not to have a snit anymore. And then he tells the snit he has to go away. And so in the story, George learns that he can control his thoughts, that he doesn't have to let them control him.
Oh, that's a great lesson. So at an early age, he learns about controlling his own personality behavior. And it's a lot about what we want in the moment and what we have the patience for.
Right. And the kids, I wanted children to be able to know that they are in control of their emotions, that it's not that you made me mad, I'm so mad, but that, no, I decided to be mad, and I am in control. And so that's what I wanted to learn, because my stories all have a life lesson in them, something that I want children to be able to take away that they can use in their life. Like in the snit, it's about anger. In the I wants and the gimmies, it's about sharing. And of course, who doesn't need to learn about sharing? I mean, I do.
Oh, sure, a lot of adults miss that lesson.
Yeah. Well, and then this other story I'm working on, The Little Blue You, it's about loss for children, so how they deal with loss.
Well, maybe we can go to the I wants and the gimmies picture. Let's get, yeah. I like this graphic. There's the little kitten, free kitten, and they're struggling over it.
Because in this story, these are two families, and the I wants and the gimmies. And so the I want boy and the gimme girl are just happen to cross the street at the same time, and they see this box that has a sign on it that says free kitten. So of course they run for the box and they start fighting over it immediately. And as they're pushing and pulling, they notice a bird flies overhead, this giant bird, and it drops something on them that is so big it blocks out the sun. And so as it comes closer, they have to make a decision. Are they going to save themselves, or are they going to save the kitten? And so they decide they're going to save the kitten. And one of my favorite lines in the story is, and running for shelter, they ran as a group, and and then running for shelter, they hid from the poop. It's lifting the box, they ran as a group, and running for shelter, they hid from the poop. And little kids love it anytime you say the word poop, so that's an instant hit. In fact, when Sophia, my daughter, was in first grade, I read it to her class, and the teacher had just told all the students that poop is a bad word, you can't say it. So here Dad comes in, and I read, and running for shelter, they hid from the poop, and the kids are going, and the teacher's like,
Did you get asked back?
no, as a matter of fact, I haven't figured out why. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Well, it's the lesson, not the one with a little word. Where does your inspiration come from? I mean, is it your kids? Is it everyday life?
Well, for my children's stories, it's definitely my children. They're a never-ending source of inspiration, the things they do. And I hope I'm not going to embarrass my daughter, but one time she came into the room and she said, my poop is green. It's really, really green. And I said, that's a great idea for a story. So I wrote a little story, my poop is really, really green.
So what did she eat that day?
Well, she had eaten some candy. She had a bunch of candy at a friend's house the day before, and it was all this green candy.
Okay.
And so I thought it'd be a fun story to, again, use the word poop, and also introduce colors and things like that to children, also teach them about their bodies.
We have another one, I believe. in this series. If we could go ahead to that picture. Yeah, this one with all the material possessions piled high, and the family is on the top of it. Tell me about this.
Well, this is the gimmies, and in the book, these are mirror images. The I wants are on the other side, and the gimmies are on the right side here. And they both have the identical pile of junk. But the I wants are kind of like a little more uppity, upper class, and the gimmies are more like a little lower class, but they have the exact same thing, with the exception on the I want side, there's a street sign that says Melrose Place or something like that, and on the gimme side it says Main Street.
Okay.
So there's that little indication that one is a little more upper class than the other, but they're fighting over the same stuff. And what they learn at the end is, after the children have this epiphany and they say, gee, sharing is really fun, I'm enjoying this, they go back and tell their families about it, and then they exchange gifts, and it changes their whole world.
All right. So is one pile higher than the other?
Nope.
Or?
It's just like they're the same, it's the same pile of garbage.
Okay. What do the children, have the children really just like a chord been struck and they tell you a great response to the story and the message you're trying to convey?
Well, it's more the parents that have responded, as far as like with the I wants and the gimmies. The parents really like that their children are going to learn about sharing. With kids, it's kind of a new concept. Like, what, I have to share? But this is mine. And so I'm introducing a new idea to a lot of them. Now, the older children have been learning about sharing, and especially if they have an older brother or a younger sister, then they've had to learn about sharing. And so it's not something they necessarily want to hear about. But I like to present these ideas in a way that's not preachy or condescending in any way, but I try to make it fun. Mm-hmm. Like, bringing in the idea of, this bird poops, and they have to decide then, am I going to save myself or am I going to save the cat? And so they make this decision to save the kitten. And so it's like a morality play in a way, but I'm trying to do it in a way that's fun for them.
Okay. Well, you said the parents really use the books to guide their children and convey the message you're trying to convey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with the SNIT and George Franklin Witt, in the back of the book there's a snitometer.
Oh, that's great.
And it's like a thermometer, and on the bottom is George Franklin Witt, just as his normal self. And then toward the top of it, he gradually gets where he turns more and more into a snit. And there are gauges on the thermometer, the snitometer, where it says, not mad, mad, really mad, really, really mad, I'm so really mad. And the parents, and some counselors actually have used the book too, in counseling young children, say, where are you on the snitometer? Like, the kid can point and say, I'm there. Because children don't always have the vocabulary to say exactly what's going on inside of them. So they can use this snitometer to say, I'm right there. And then the parent or the counselor, for that matter, can say, oh, okay, so you're there. What's going on? What are you upset about? And just get him to talk. And because my wife's a counselor, and she's the one who actually encouraged me to make something like that, a snitometer that the children could actually use to point out and show, where are you on the snitometer?
Well, that's interesting that you say children sometimes don't have the language to converse about their feelings, mm-hmm. and illustrations do that for them. That's wonderful. I like that.
Yeah, to help them express what's going on, so they can at least help an adult understand what's going on, so the adult can help them with that. But it's all to be done, like I said, I like to do it in a fun way, so children don't know they're learning something.
Could we go on to the elephant in the living room? We have the third story, the picture. Well, I do want to ask one question. You have moved from a temperate, cold climate like Michigan to a semi-tropical with a different culture, a unique culture even in the United States. And how has that influenced you as an artist, and has it changed your work and inspired you to do
Well,
things?
I think more than anything, I just enjoy being here. I was really taken aback at how friendly people were in this Acadiana area. Like when I first moved here, I was walking around Girard Park early in the morning, and there was a couple of guys jogging around the path, and they would wave and say hi. And I was like, wow, nobody would ever say, hi, hi, and nobody would ever do that where I was from in Michigan.
The difference in just culture or
Yeah, the
climate?
friendliness. I love the food. I love the music, and the whole art community here in Lafayette in particular is really wonderful. It's been really welcoming.
That's great. Well, tell me about the elephant in the living room.
Well, this is a story about money. And there are two characters in here. There's Mrs. Spend Now and Mrs. Spend Then. And the elephant in the living room is debt.
Ah.
So throughout the story, these people have let the elephant in their home, and it's taken over. Of course, you have an elephant in your living room. There's not much else you can do there. So it's this unspoken thing where people will get more and more and more, but they're in debt. And so there's this comparison between Mrs. Spend Now, who wants to have all the nice things right now, and Mrs. Spend Then, who saves and invests her money so she can have those things later and not have all this debt looming over her. And where Mrs. Spend Now is in this fight with her husband at one point, and where they're kind of tearing each other apart because they're so stressed out over their debt. Like that never happens.
How did you translate a elephant to to be a symbol of debt? How do you bridge that symbol for people's minds?
I needed something that would symbolize people's discomfort but not wanting to talk about it, because debt is this insidious thing that can slowly suck us in. And it's like, oh, okay, I got one credit card, and that's okay, I can handle that. But then I get another one, and then the car payment, and the house payment, and this payment. And next thing I know, I'm like up to here, and it's uncomfortable, and it can be very, very stressful, of course, to have the mountains of debt. But it's like this thing that we don't talk about that. It's like we've got all these nice things, but we're not going to talk about that. Don't discuss it. We're working on that. And so Mrs. Spend Then doesn't have the elephant, and she's more at peace and relaxed, even though she's not shabbily dressed in the story. She's modestly dressed, but Mrs. Spend Now she's got all the jewels and the nice clothes, the nice cars, the big house, and so.
Well, do kids? You plant a seed with a book like this. Hopefully, when they become adults, they go back to this story and they take that lesson forward into their adult life. Mm-hmm. Have you seen an example of that, or?
Well, I've shown that to my kids, especially my daughter, because my son is older, so my children's stories don't interest him as much. But I read the story to my daughter and talked to her about that we save our money, then we buy something that we want, and then we can also invest our money and also give to share our money too. That it's not all about us, because the aim of the story is that we're in control of our money, that it's not in control of us. And like I said, it can be a horribly stressful thing, because I've been in debt up to my earballs, and it is no fun at all.
No. And it puts a lot of stress on a family.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily. Well, who is your publisher, and where can people find your books?
My books can be found at crimsondragonpublishing.com. It's all one word, crimsondragonpublishing.com. But if you can't find that, or if it's just like it's too much to remember, people can just Google "I Once" and the Gimmies, and there's some information about "I Once" and the Gimmies, or there's the SNIT and George Franklin Wit.
Well, you mentioned that you have found a community of like-minded artists, and you like the culture and the arts community. Can you elaborate a little bit on that for our viewers?
Yes, there's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators that has a local chapter, and once a month we get together at the Southside Library, usually on like the third Monday of the month or second Monday. They send out emails, but it's free to go. But people can join the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and that's a national thing, and that does cost for membership. But the local chapter, people can go for free, and it's really great to bring work that we're currently working on.
Maybe get a critique.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what it's for. And it's not like, well, that's really terrible, but it's a friendly critique, like, well, I think you should try this, or maybe if you use this word instead of that one. So it's very constructive. And it's a very supportive group. I found that children's book writers and illustrators are a very, very helpful bunch, that they don't hold back their support. Sometimes other groups of artists can be like, well, I don't want you cramping my style or getting into my market. But the children's book writers, I've found that they're a very welcoming and very friendly group, very supportive.
Great. So you found your tribe.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I like that tribe.
All right. Well, I'm sure your work is appreciated within the group highly. Do you ever exhibit prints of your illustrations or in local galleries? Or?
I am working on that. I'm working on getting with Tanya Falgett. You may know her.
Yes.
She has a gallery, and we're talking about working together to have a show with some of my work. And that would be my assemblages.
All right. Well,
the politics and religion stuff.
I'll be anticipating that for sure. Are you and your family happily settled here? Do you see yourself here in 5 years?
Yeah, like I was telling you earlier, I started this educational leadership program at UL, so that's going to go for at least another 4 years. So that's pretty much it. Plus, we moved twice in the last year, and I am not moving anytime soon. You can forget about that. Twice in a year is like, that's almost traumatic.
Yeah, it's stressful, especially if you're so busy, and it sounds like you really are. Well, what would you say to someone who is just thinking about a career in writing, children's books, illustration? What advice might you give them?
Don't do it. Stop. Go get a job where you can make some money. Please, I beg you, don't do it. No, seriously, if that doesn't work, and they say, no, I really want to do it. Okay, if you really want to do this, I would say get with a group like the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. Get around people who can give you some good advice and some counsel, mentor you, and see what they're doing and get some feedback for your work. And then don't give up, because it's easy to get discouraged in the arts because, like I said, don't do it, stop. Because there are a lot of people that do art, that make art, a lot of them. And there are a lot of people that want to get paid for it. So there's a lot of competition, and I just think, it can be very discouraging.
Okay.
But if you're around people that, like this group here in Lafayette, they're a very supportive group.
Well, I wanted to thank you for being on the show. And could you want to come here, Sophia? This is Sophia, and she wanted to be on TV today. This is Taylor's youngest?
Yep, she was our bonus baby.
And Sophia, what do you have to say about your father writing all these wonderful stories?
The things I want to say is, if you want to become an author, then you can.
Oh, that's good advice, yeah. Don't let, if it's your passion, just do it. go ahead and do it.
That's good advice, Sophia.
Yeah, and do you want to say hello to your mother
Mm-hmm.
and your brother?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Mom, Elias, if you're watching this, I want to say hi to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Taylor and Sophia, for being on Louisiana Heart Beats. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Dennis. Really appreciate you doing this.
You're welcome.
Great to be here.
Okay, I think that's a wrap. It goes so fast.